Hello fantastic people, I hope you are doing great. Today I will show you how source control can make your code a little bit more secure. So if you ever deleted a file by accident or deleted some lines of code and then regretted it after a few days, your life is going to change a lot. So let's get started. So let me first tell you a few words about what source control is. Basically, the first thing you have to know, you probably heard about Git. There are many more different version control systems, though Git is definitely the most popular. That means it will be the easiest to find answers to the questions you have or resolve any problems you may have. But where's Git? There's generally GitHub. Before I tell you what are the differences, what is the first one, what is the second one, let me first show you a small overview of what the benefits the source control gives you and basically how it looks like and what it is, obviously. So here you see I'm logged into my GitHub account. I have several projects here called repositories. So basically I have 26 different projects in which I store my files and their history. Over here you see some of the most popular ones, and then when I scroll to the bottom, here's a very interesting thing. This graph shows how many times I committed in a particular time. So for example, here we see that between August and September I was pretty active, and that is because there was 1 month long game jam which I participated in. So if I click on one of those green squares, I can see that, okay, I committed that particular day 4 times into that particular repository. So if I click on it, I'm going to that specific project. So if you're wondering what repository is, generally, not always, but generally it is like a one project. So all the files that you keep together, like when you create a game in Unity, basically all of those files that you store their history of will be inside one repository. So here I have a view of that particular repository, and the interesting part here is this small text here, 38 commits. That means I have 38 entries to the history of that repository. If I click on it, I will see all the changes that I have done during the game jam. So literally when I click order from the initial commit to the very end when I submitted the game. Now, I know that small labels don't give us much information, but if I click on any specific entry in the history, I can see all the changes that were done on that particular commit. So all the history changes I decided to push together, because this is a very important part of source control. You specify exactly the chunks of code you want to commit and push. So it's very easy to really organize your code the way you like. You can commit very small amounts of code, so you can have very granular messages. You always see what is happening, or completely the opposite. Sometimes when I'm in a rush and I don't need that level of detail, I can just throw, for example, the whole day of work into one commit and this type of stuff. So for example, here, obviously after a while, message like minor fixes and improvements won't tell me much. So I would really have to go there and see what changed. But that's the beautiful thing. As you've seen, I opened the entry. I see that I deleted quite a lot of files. So you see this text, this file was deleted. The good thing is if I click on load diff, I can clearly see what was in the file when I deleted it. So the red means that I deleted something. Obviously, if I would delete just few lines, it wouldn't be all red. The red would be only what I deleted. Now here, for example, we see that I adjusted HP of a boss. I decreased it from 400 to 300. And as I said, the red one means I removed something, and the green one means I added something. So here I removed 400 and added 300 on that place. Here in the lab, required item ID 999, I added just this line. So this is very neat feature. Another amazing part of the source control is history of a particular file. So for example here, if I go to this lab file, I need to click on the three dots and then view file. Exactly that. Here I see some file. It doesn't matter that it doesn't tell us much. I just want you to show the feature, and it will be, let's say, applicable to any type of file you make, you commit and push to your repository. So here I click on the history button, being on that particular file, and I can see all the changes I have done to that specific file. If I click on this icon over here, so the second from the right, I can see the state of that file at that particular moment. So this is pretty neat feature, because I can basically copy paste things that were basically the state on that particular date. So this is pretty amazing thing. So just to recap, source control allows us to keep different versions of our files and basically go back to them anytime we may need or want to, or see what changed at that time and who changed that, because that's important part of the source control. At this point, probably you will work on your own, but you can easily see also who've done what type of changes. Okay, so let's set up Git. The first thing you have to do is to go to youtube.com/ptitnet and click this red button over here. If you don't do it, for some reason Git will simply not work. I have no idea why is that. I tried without it and it just simply doesn't work. No sense. Then the second thing you have to do is to Google Git, not GitHub, just Google Git. And then you will see this website, probably will be exactly the same, git-scm. So we go to the page and then we download the version for our system. For mine, it will be for Windows. And then we click, once again, the version we need. Now what we have to do, obviously open the file and install it. Basically, there will be quite a lot of settings on the way. But yeah, for me, probably it doesn't show because I already have Git installed. But basically, you can keep everything to default. It usually works pretty well. And now we just click finish. And we should be set up. To verify that, we can open any folder. Here I have a random folder. And now press Shift and keep it pressed. Click right mouse button, and you should see here for Windows 11 you have to click extra place, so show more options. In Windows 10 you didn't have to do that. You should see here git bash here. So if you click that, new console will open and you can just type git dash version. And if you see the version, and actually even if you've seen just the git bash, that means you have installed Git properly. Let me tell you two words about what Git is and how it differs from GitHub. So, long story short, Git is basically a software that allows you to write a set of commands and keep versions of your code inside the repository, local repository on your computer. But then you generally want to have this repository in a little bit safer place than your computer, right? Because, for example, tomorrow I may get angry, come to your house, take your laptop and throw it out of the window. Then you would simply lose your code, right? We wouldn't like that. I mean, to lose our code. So basically, the best way to secure it extra way is to push it to external repository. And GitHub is basically one of those providers of such a repository. So basically what it gives us nice online interface to basically see our repositories. Now I will show you how to use Git with your Unity project. What's important, we'll do it completely using graphical interface, so you will not have to learn any comments, anything like that. I would say this is not the best way to work, but it is definitely much easier than writing comments. But if you would like to learn the, let's say, proper way of doing stuff using the command line interface, I will have video about that in the future too. So here I have a very simple project. It consists of 2 sprites, because that is very important thing about source control. You can store there not only code. So this is pretty nice, though you have to remember that there are some limits regarding size. And usually I'd say if you have something bigger than 1 megabyte or 2 megabytes, I would say even that is already pretty big. I advise to keep it outside of the repository. If you want to store it securely somewhere, use cloud storage or something like that. The reason is, if you ever want to go back to a certain point in the history and you will have a lot of large files, this will basically take a very long time. So we have 2 sprites, we have script with one simple script called monster, and we have obviously the sample scene. Okay, so let's open monster script in Visual Studio Code. Now, what's important, this is brand new installation, I don't have any fancy plugins, so everything you see here comes by default with Visual Studio Code. If you use Visual Studio or any other IDE, it will look slightly different. I use Rider. It has all the features, I would say even better features than Visual Studio Code. But as I say, most of the IDEs, if not all IDEs, should have the version control by default in them. So for Visual Studio Code, you see those icons on the left, and the third one is the source control. Once you click it, you will see this message over here. So what we want to do, we want to create a new repository for our project. And to do that, we simply click Publish to GitHub. When you click that, it will ask you if you want to allow the Visual Studio Code to sign to GitHub. You click Allow, and now a new window will open, where obviously you will have to log in and authorize Visual Studio Code. So I do that. I have to type my password. So you see, I now open the URL, and I can choose if I want private or public repository. Private, obviously, only you can see it. Public, anybody can see it. So we choose private. Now select which files should be included in the repository. That is basically when you start, we want to choose what folders will go to the repository. If you are not sure what to select, basically I would select anything that you recognize or anything you know you will want to keep. So in my case, I usually store in the repositories my assets and resources, and I don't store anything like settings and I don't know, library or anything like that. It is a little bit harder than to recreate the project in case it completely vanishes for some reason. But the thing is, I prefer that way because my repositories are a little bit cleaner and much smaller this way. So I click OK, and you see at the very bottom everything is going now to GitHub. Now I need to sign in once again, so I can click and sign with browser or sign in with code. My Visual Studio Code was authorized to do that, so I shouldn't have any problem. I need to copy the code here, click the link, enter the code and click continue. And once again authorize the Git credentials. And I'm all set. So here you see, successfully published the Git name of my repository /git. So I can click either here open in GitHub, or what we can do, we can basically go to the GitHub page, and here I have my repositories. So I can look for my repository. It was called Git, it's over here, and you see I have assets folder, where I have all the stuff that I committed. So I have my script and I have my sprites. Whee! Beautiful. So now let's make some changes to our project. So for example, here I have this monster script, which is in fact a scriptable object. So let's create a new folder and call it scriptables. Awesome. And inside of it, let's create 2 monsters. I don't know, werewolf and another one, let's call it, for example, I don't know, warefrog. That will do it. Now let's set their HP and MP. So for example, for werewolf, let's make it 50 and 30, and let's make the werefrog very powerful, over 9001. Awesome. So we have those new files over here. Let's actually make change also to our script. So I'm going back to the to the Visual Studio Code, and let's actually add also new serialized field. Field and private string name. Awesome. Why you don't like it? Of course, because object has already name, but we don't care because we are terrible people. I go back to the scriptables, enter name of the monsters, so werefrog, and the werewolf. Okay, I'm going back to the Visual Studio Code, and over here you see the changes that I have made. So literally everything is over here. So for example, if I click on the monsters script, you can nicely see inside your IDE what changes you have made. So that's this one. Then here I have all those files that I added, right? So we can see actually how the scriptable objects look like. So we can see their metadata and so on, and the new folder with its own metadata. So that is great. Now we have to commit them somehow. So there is this button called stage changed. If we want to commit something, first we have to say to the source control that this change that we made is something we are interested in committing. So we deliberately have to say which things we want to commit. So for example, over here, there should be also a way to stage a specific change. So for example, let's go back to the script. Let's add a comment, trollolala, beautiful. Let's go back to the div, and we see we have some more changes. Let's maybe, this will be hard to explain, so let's maybe do this way. Now we have two different changes. One is interesting for us and one is not interesting. So what we can do, we can just select this one that we are interested in, click right, and make stage selected ranges. So only what I select will be staged. So great, one thing staged. If I click over here, so you see it suddenly changed, right? So I don't see that anymore. But if I click here on the stage changes, I can see the actual changes that I'm going to make into repository. For the rest of files, let's say I want everything, so I just select them and click right, and then stage changes. All of them staged, but that's not all. Now what I have to do is I have to write a message, so something that I will later on identify those changes by. So adding werefrog, for example, and werewolf. Awesome. So now I need to commit it. Here's this button, which is commit. And commit doesn't send those changes to the external repository. When you commit something, it will be already stored in the history, but it will be stored locally. So here I have to do either save all and commit, or commit stage changes, and I should do just commit stage changes. So because I selected exactly what I want, so this is not a problem. Great. And you see everything disappeared because those changes are already committed. Now what's important, as I said, those changes will not be visible in our repository in GitHub. So you see I refresh it, I go to assets, no scriptable folder. That's very important. In Git, you don't commit folders. Basically, if there is something in folder, the folder will be automatically committed for you. So we go back to Visual Studio Code, and what we have to do, we have to now push the changes. So we have those 3 dots over here, and we have push action. So we push. We wait, and there should be somewhere message that we succeeded. So guys, I'm a terrible person, but I maybe somehow missed the message, or it appeared on another screen or something, but I see no error, no problems, anything like that. So looks like everything should be all right. Let me just go to our repository here. Let's refresh the page, and we have our scriptables. And very good thing here, you see in the middle, you can see if you have folders, right? You can see what is the last change that was made to that folder. So I can go to scriptables, I can see that files, I can see the last commit to them and when it was. So this is very, very neat. Now, if we have a look at our scripts and we have a look at the monster, we also see that it was modified 2 minutes ago and 28 minutes ago. Sorry, the metadata was created 28 minutes ago. If I go to monster, now, as I said, we can see its history by clicking over here on the history, and we see both commits. Fantastic. If we see this file, you see we don't have name because that is what we added later. So on purpose, I have misspelled the werewolf. So over here, instead of werewolf, we have werewolf. So let's adjust its name and let's quickly commit everything once again. So we have a nice recap. So I changed the name, Ctrl S, I'm going back to Visual Studio Code, and I already see the changes over here, but let's say this was all closed. I was over here. I would go over here to source control, click on my file and see the changes. If I would like to commit all file, I would click on plus and everything is staged. If I would like to commit just the one change, I could select it and select stage selected ranges. As easy as that. Now, I need to write a message, so fixing typo in werewolf name, that's tough name, and click here to commit that. Now, in order to push it to the external repository, I click on those 3 dots and push. I wait, see no errors, I go back to my repository, go to assets, I go to scriptables, I go to werewolf and see the correct name. So that was just a brief introduction to Git with Unity. There is much more to that. There are many more useful features in Git itself, and we'll learn about those in future videos. I cannot promise that it will be the following video, but that will come definitely in the close future. I hope you enjoyed the video, have a fantastic day, love you and bye bye.